You know, this is the problem. The tone doesn't match. To which I replied, that's not how that works. The system integrator Artesian Builds has been in a lot of trouble over the last few weeks, and now they're going to be in more trouble because the company has decided to lay off all of its employees via Slack tonight. It's a nice message for the team to wake up to. So we've been in discussion actually with CEO Noah Katz for a couple of days now about flying out to California to do an interview with him in the same way that we did one with Newegg. And it would be up to Katz here to make matters better or worse, depending on how he performed on camera. This we hadn't made public at all until this point because we were still working on details. And while this was all happening, we were hearing from a lot of employees and former employees from Artesian Builds, a much larger company than we initially thought, and probably than most of you knew of, and heard basically the horror stories that led to the downfall, and it's more than just the mistakes that happened on the stream last week. Before that, this video is brought to you by Lexar's Professional Series 2000X SD cards. We've actually been using this exact model of SD card internally for at least 4 years now, having bought them ourselves, and whenever we buy new SD cards, we typically buy this exact model. We're happy to advertise this particular one since they've traveled all over the world with us and have filmed thousands of hours of footage. Lexar also has a new 3-in-1 card reader that you should check out for your media projects. Learn more at the link in the description below. Just a quick note here as we progress, this video is coming together extremely fast because everything's happening very fast. We've been collecting a lot of information. It's being shot at about 1 a.m. I'm going to stay and edit and upload this thing, so the editing isn't going to be as tight as it normally is, but work with us here. Okay, so for the past week, we've been privately piecing together a piece on Artesian Builds, and we've been trying to meet with the CEO for that unedited interview. In that time, we've seen some of the most incompetent handling of affairs we've ever seen at a company in this industry. It's genuinely baffling. To put the size of the company into perspective, really the heartbreaking thing about it all is that it's about 40 to 50 people who've lost their jobs tonight by complete surprise from a scenario which was probably recoverable. I mean, the whole taking away the giveaway PC, that's not a nice thing to do. But then you look at their business license, which has been suspended by the state of California for some kind of tax issue, and the way they handled the rest of the business. And obviously there were much deeper problems because a company doing enough builds to support 50 employees isn't going to get torpedoed over a bad series of giveaways as long as they can address it properly, which they didn't do that either. But anyway, it's really sad to see how many people end up out onto the street over the actions of a CEO who is running a PC building company and yet is infatuated with trying to become famous on Twitch. Those things, they don't really go together. So first up, we didn't realize this, but Artesian Builds is in fact big enough to have 2 locations. It has one in the San Francisco area. That's where all of the internet famous people builds happen. So that'd be all of the partnership builds, all of the Twitch streamer builds, anything like that. That went through the San Francisco office, and that was mostly handled by the CEO, Noah Katz, and whatever team that he had there. The East Coast office is actually near us. We weren't aware of that, and really near us. Like we probably will be able to meet with people soon. If you haven't reached out to us and you used to work there, reach out to us at tips@gamersnexus.net because, I don't know, we'll grab coffee or something and talk about it. We're that close. But anyway, they have 2 offices. The one that's on the East Coast handled the builds for basically everyone else. So the bulk of the business daily was happening in one location, and then sort of the promotional activities for the business, like building things for internet famous streamers, was happening in the other location. And to just catch you up on matters as we ramp into this, a couple of bullet points. Artesian Builds, if you don't know, is a PC building system integrator. That means they build custom PCs, similar to what CyberPower iBuyPower does, much smaller, but still large enough to have relatively high order volume, a lot more than we expected actually. The company CEO recently changed giveaway rules mid-giveaway as it was happening in a live stream.
This is an ambassador giveaway. This is not for people that aren't taking streaming seriously. We need you to be promoting, frankly, yourself and us if we're giving you a free computer. The ambassador program is changing. Everyone currently in it stays in it but the ambassador level of our program is going to rise up. It's already sort of risen up a little bit. Gamers rise up. And it's going to be a little bit harder to enter that level. But affiliates who start out at the lowest level can ascend gloriously, as if caught in a tractor beam, onto the next level. And ambassadors who slay it may even become partners at some point. And partners who slay it will become gods.
It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not even a scheme per se.
Will become gods.
And basically gloated about the fact that people who were being drawn for the giveaway were then being rejected to receive the computer that was being given away.
Gecko, we run the contest, we make the rules. It's a slight change because we don't want to give PCs to people that quit playing the game. That's silly. Pick a random name. I'd love to.
So people were getting rejected because they weren't going to be able to do enough for Artesian Builds, and so screw them, I guess, is sort of how it went down.
It just really kills the energy of the drawing process. But
we have some questions about the legality of this on its own. Maybe that's part of why the company just ended up, is in the process of what appears to be shutting down. They claim reorganization. Normally that means some form of bankruptcy and then maybe new ownership or selling out shares, but either way, the legality of the way this giveaway was handled, as far as we're aware, is maybe suspect, but we're not lawyers, so we'll leave that part there. The company's CEO apologized on 3 separate occasions. The first was a series of tweets which basically came across as, oh, we're so sorry for giving you people computers, you're so ungrateful. The second one was a statement that had the letterhead from the chief executive officer's office, which was just weirdly just tone deaf. Is what that is. The whole thing was, it was like pretending to be something you're not. Is sort of how it came across.
there's the re-roll. Here's the reason, chatterbabies. This is an ambassador giveaway, and you've got to be collaborating with my company to get my free computers. Sponsored by Intel. Thanks, Intel.
Thanks, Steve.
What we didn't know, though, was just how mismanaged things were behind the scenes. So on March 6th, we emailed Artesian Builds. We offered to fly out to San Francisco at our own cost, again, just a few weeks after the Newegg one, to meet with CEO Noah Katz. We did not publicly share this communication yet, and that's going to be important in a moment. We did inform Katz that all communication would be considered on record for publication. We'll put our outreach on the screen as well. Our goal wasn't to pile on here, but to have an actual honest discussion about what happened and pose hard questions. Now, it would have been up to Katz to not make this worse. It's not our job to make them look good. So in these types of interviews, as we're looking at doing more of them after the Newegg one, really our job is to sit there, ask questions, and let them try and earn back their customers or make things worse. And that's your judgment as a viewer to figure out at that point based on what you're seeing. And we're planning to keep doing these unedited so that there's no question at all as to what was presented. So it's just entirely 100% transparent in that regard. That was the goal. Over the next few hours after sending that email, which again was only sent to Artesian Builds and their support department, we had several staff and former staff of Artesian reach out to us privately after we sent that email, and we have screenshots of the Slack server where the email I sent was shared internally so that they could discuss it, which is all fine with us. That's just sort of how companies work. Artesian was internally discussing it, and so employees became aware of it, started emailing us about their experience. We heard back from Katz. While this conversation was happening, we were hearing from employees about the company's bank accounts being frozen. Suddenly, the employees, the staff in charge of things like purchasing, were not able to purchase things. We also heard about the CEO, quote, ghosting the team and about an ambiguous future for the company. So at 3:30 p.m. on March 7th, members of the Artesian Builds Slack were discussing an ominous bank freeze and being locked out of company accounts, like the Twitter account. At 3:36 p.m., a few minutes later, the Artesian internal Slack included statements that Noah Katz had allegedly demanded a cessation of all refunds to customers, and the chat continued to debate the legality on this, but obviously has no recourse in going against the orders handed down from on high. This, by the way, is exceptionally slimy because denying refunds to people, especially if you know you're about to fire your entire team, obviously means you're just trying to take the money and run and pay off whatever debts you might have and move on, rather than doing, the right thing and refunding the people who will never see their system. Anyway, at 12:20 a.m. on March 8th, CEO Noah Katz finally commented on the company's internal Slack server, stating the following, quote, "Hi folks, the past week has been a difficult and chaotic time for everyone here. While I have been working around the clock to help stabilize the situation, I would now like to share an update to the team about where we are. At this time, we are continuing to seek support for Artesian Builds so that we can restart the order flow and continue to ship awesome PCs, which will help us recover from the current situation. As it was the weekend, important conversations are slated for this coming week and have not yet occurred. For now, the company will continue to fulfill existing orders from stock on hand to the best of our ability. We'll have more to say about this in the coming days. GN interview isn't like an immediate tomorrow thing, but I love Steve. We'll see." That always hurts me a little bit when I have to do my job, which is to be impartial. It's my job specifically to not be friends with people in the industry if I have to work with them on content like this. So it always hurts a little bit to see stuff like that. There were people at Newegg who were like, "I'm a big fan. Can I have a photo?" They're looking at their boss over there. I don't know. I mean, we said this to Noah Katz in the email correspondence and to Newegg's people who said they were fans, which was, I appreciate that. Don't take this personally, but that has no bearing on any of this discussion we're going to have. I'm basically going to pretend I don't know what you just said, and we're going to proceed as is appropriate to discuss things professionally about what's happening. So, on the personal side, it's I appreciate that. On the professional side, it actually doesn't matter. I have to do my job here, which is to look out for consumers. I don't really care about the other side of things. So not knowing we had seen this at the time, CEO Noah Katz also emailed us and gave a soft acceptance to our interview. He said that he'd be up to it, but despite being the literal CEO of the company, he needed lawyers to tell him if it's a bad idea to do the interview. It would have been probably the most honest public chance on a big platform to get a message out there. But what we didn't know was that he was in the process of laying everyone off, despite the fact that he had just invited us out. So color us confused on that. And this will come back up later. This will be a little bit important. So here's the message sent to Artesian Build staff just hours ago before recording this. Quote, "Hello everyone. As I mentioned yesterday, I've been spending the past week working relentlessly across many areas on the back end, attempting to secure the vital funding necessary to sustain company operations. While that process is continuing, I have an important announcement to share. Effective immediately, Artesian is imposing a full freeze on all business financial activities. To ensure fair treatment of everyone involved with Artesian, including customers, creditors, yikes, and employees, Artesian is undergoing a financial analysis by outside counsel for reorganization purposes and is freezing all payments of any kind pending the recommendations by counsel. Sadly, as part of this freeze, all employment for all employees is suspended, effective immediately and until further notice. Artesian hopes that it can reverse these layoffs in the future, but at this time, Artesian simply cannot continue employing anyone until the outside analysis is fully completed. We do not have any further information to share at this time, but expect to learn more by the end of March. I want to sincerely thank every single one of you on this talented team for the hard work and dedication that you brought to this company. If financing does come, then we can potentially get back in the action. We'll see." Now, order volume is actually pretty high. We're still working on getting specific, more recent numbers, which now shouldn't be a problem since there's a lot of very angry people. But it's high enough that there are going to be builds that never get complete, and there will be people who never get their build. Whether or not they get their money back is to be determined. Hopefully, a simple chargeback, if you're one of those people, will get you your money back if you bought it on a credit card and you have the option to do a chargeback. Not everyone has that ability, but if you have an outstanding build with Artesian right now, you need to just pause this video and immediately initiate a chargeback and get your money back, because they will not refund you. They're done. This is it. The accounts are frozen. They've told their staff to stop issuing. They don't have staff. They told their staff, which no longer works there, to stop issuing refunds. It's over. So if you can, you need to immediately contact your financial institution and tell them that this charge is functionally at this point fraudulent, and that you will never be receiving a product. So to just catch everyone up on what was going on behind the scenes, first of all, Artesian Builds was far more successful than we understood it to be. And it's impressive how successful generally it was in just a couple of years. It's only been around since something like 2018. So the company, a lot of its success was built on the back of one key person, and that would be the former COO who ran the East Coast office. The COO left in about November of last year and stepped down as a result of disagreements with the CEO. Apparently the way things worked, in speaking with multiple now former staff at Artesian, the CEO and the COO ran their West Coast and their East Coast branches somewhat autonomously, or at least independently of each other, where the CEO is off pursuing his projects of building marketing-focused PCs. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it's for the sake of the company and not just to meet Twitch streamers. And then on the East Coast office, they were working on doing the bulk of the work, building the actual computers for customers who were supporting the entire operation by buying computers. Now, some of the builds coming out of the West Coast office, from what we understand, were also those being sold. But the East Coast office is the one where the COO was managing things and able to generally maintain a fluid workflow and pipeline for the company. So eventually, the COO left, and that's where things started getting worse. The CEO did not replace the COO, and so basically assumed management of both locations. The impression, ultimately, just in speaking with Noah Katz via email, one of the things I found odd was maybe it was a lack of experience in the industry is probably the most polite way to phrase it, but my emails were very intentionally sort of terse, some of them, as we were setting up the meetings, and that's because I'm trying to maintain a distance and just set a time and a date for the meeting, and then we stop talking to each other until I show up. That's generally how it works, because it's not supposed to be a chit-chatty, like, hey, let's become friends. It's supposed to be let's get down to the bottom of this, and you have an opportunity as the interviewee to try and explain things and rectify things and say, I've learned, this is what I've learned, let's move forward. Or obviously to make it worse, another opportunity, depending on how you perceived, for example, a Newegg interview. But it felt like the gravity of the opportunity we were affording was sort of lost there, and there was a tone deafness that's conveyed as well in communications with employees and on Twitter and in those apologies, where it's like not quite grasping that this is about the life and death of the company. We're trying to give you a massive platform to talk with us on. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to do it for you. But, if you think there's a chance you can fix this, this is the place to fix it, because I'm going to be fair. And that obviously wasn't really taken to heart, because we were getting just more offers about, like, let's go out and get lunch together. Let's get on the phone and chit chat. Like, I'll drive you around. It's not really how things generally work. So anyway, this just looks to me like an instance where perhaps there needs to be some learning done before taking on endeavors quite this large. Maybe it blew up and got too big too fast for someone who just didn't have enough experience with it. But either way, it's unraveled in a disastrous way for the people who relied on the CEO to have an income and a livelihood and were doing work that they were excited about. We emailed and said, "Hi Noah, I heard about the layoff of all the staff. Please confirm if you are interested in talking on camera about events on Tuesday next week." And of course I sent this basically expecting, okay, trip's off. We're not going to be flying now because there's no more company to fly to. Noah replied and said, "Thanks for your patience. I suppose that gives you even more of a story," frowny face. Seems like sort of the, this is the problem. This behavior is the problem. It's not like I have people I'm responsible for too, not just family, but we've got a team that we've built up that's awesome, that's really stuck with me through a lot. I can't imagine being like, oh, that gives you more of a story, oh, I'm sad about that. It's like, no, the response is, I super f***ed up and I just fucked over 50 people. This guy should feel devastated. And I feel like it's not the right response. The tone doesn't match just like the tone of, like, we can go get sushi and I'll pick you up and whatever. It's like, no, dude, I'm going to come to your office and we're going to sit down and talk on camera, and both of us are going to feel really tense. That's not the time. So it's the same type of thing, though, is what I'm getting at, where he says, if you want to come, you're still invited. Alan agreed to be on with me and said, this is weird, the font, face, and italics changed here, so I don't know if it's copied, pasted, or like some weird, you know, how like crazy people on websites randomly bold and change colors of words. I don't know what this is, but it says, when a company suspends operations, it is possible to resume operations if it receives financial assistance sufficient to cover debts, as the legal paperwork for anything like this does take time. Then in italics, it says, this statement in no way is reflective of the thoughts or opinions of any employee. It is simply part of the proceedings. And then it says, this email contains privileged and confidential information and is for the recipient alone. To which I replied, that's not how that works. You don't tell me the confidential things without first asking me if I agree to hold that information in confidence. I've already said this is all on record. It's in the email, like above this one. It's like, consider all of this publishable and on record. And so obviously my reply was, no, that's not how it works. You don't send it and then ask if they accept the terms after they've already laid out that the terms are everything is public. I don't know. I don't know where to go with this. He sort of says there's a significant amount of misinformation out there right now, and then says he wants to put more truth out there in the world, said the communication parameters are clear, didn't mean to offend. Okay, but you know, at this point, I don't think there will be an interview happening because I see no more story. Now I am no longer interested in speaking with a person who, to me, and this is something that one of the former staff said too, it feels like it was sort of like a sandbox or a playground for the CEO to engage on Twitch in an interesting way. And that was a great gimmick. Building computers on stream and shipping them to the people who ordered them, that's kind of a cool idea. But it feels like maybe the intentions were elsewhere and not in the end product. So I am no longer interested, I don't think, in having this discussion since the company is now dead or will be very soon. I don't think the right person to talk to at this point is the former CEO. He's had his time, he had his chance. Now I'm interested in speaking with the former staff. So here's what I'm doing. I've already reached out to several people who are able to hopefully help facilitate at least having a meeting locally. I don't know if this is going to be on camera or not, but as I understand it, there's at least about 7 people locally who used to work at Artesian Builds. I am going to at least try and meet up with them. And my intent is to collect their contact information, their sort of resume, and I'm going to send it out to a couple people I know at Epic Games and at some of the companies in the industry. We'll email EVGA, Intel, a couple of them, say, hey, do you need someone with maybe this skill set? Try and at least help a few of these people who worked near us land something else so that they're not just left with nothing out of nowhere. That's what I'm going to do. I don't want to talk to Noah Katz anymore because I don't think the motive is right on his side. So we already have a couple things in motion for this. You probably, if you worked there and you're local, you have probably already heard from someone on your former team who is trying to organize things. We're working on it. If you haven't, then please feel free to email us and we'll try and work something out. I would at least like to sort of get in touch with the people who work there and see if we can maybe help put them in touch with people who could place them in a role. I don't have any openings here. I'm not sure what openings the other companies have, but I'm sure some people are hiring right now, and we'll do our best to at least bridge you with people and see if it goes anywhere. But the thing that was really troubling with this one is just how absolutely idiotic the collapse of this company was. This was 100% recoverable, but the problem is you can't recover once you start looking at the root cause of everything. The one incident of taking away the giveaway system, that could have been resolved. It could have been a massive, yeah, we messed that up, and then here's what we're going to do to fix it, with some loss of sales in the short term. But this is beyond that. There's no saving this. One of the quotes we got that I would like to share from a former employee said the following quote: "We are all very proud of our work and are generally disheartened that it has been tarnished by an unserious person who has made it clear they respect neither their company nor their employees, who worked extremely hard to get the company to where it was before all of this. Overall, the statements made by our CEO don't reflect the feelings or attitudes of the staff at Artesian Builds." So this is one of those things where some of the more incompetent decisions you've seen made in those builds, like underclocking the GPU, that may have been a policy from higher up. We don't really know. I'll try and talk with some more people. Maybe there's more to the story. But for now, we wanted you to at least know this much, and that it looks like Artesian Builds is done for. Maybe it gets sold. Maybe the parts, bits and pieces of it get sold off to other SIs who will probably have nothing to do with the name and will just make do with the customer lists and the parts lists and whatever. But for now, that's the update. If you know more and you worked there specifically, then get in touch with us. You can use tips@gamersnexus.net to send over information, and we'll see if there's anything further we can do on the story. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more as always. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly, or patreon.com/gamersnexus. It's getting pretty late, so we're going to go edit this video. I think Keegan has stayed behind to help with this. Thank you, Keegan. All right, we'll see you all next time.